Hello guys, welcome back to Unique Arts. I am Costco Picasso. You can call me Shannon. And today is Shenanigans for May 2024. I'm actually recording this on June 4th. The first I arrived in Arizona on the 1st. I moved to Arizona. So I'm a little bit behind with videos. Hopefully I'll remedy that and get some sort of proper internet thing going because I don't really have that right now. I am sitting on the floor in a closet. I don't know how long I'll be living in Arizona. I'm kind of thinking of this about a temporary thing, but I'm not exactly sure. It might end up being longer because initially I was thinking just a few months. Now I'm kind of thinking at least the rest of the year. Maybe I'll just never leave. I don't know. I've lived in Arizona before though. Uh, I'm in Yuma County right now. I was in the Gila County on the east side of Arizona. I'm very southwest corner right now. West of me is Mexico. I have to go north and west to hit California. So pretty far down by the border. But regardless, today is my monthly update. I'm gonna try to make this relatively quick. I do have a bit to talk about, I guess, especially the last couple months. I've hardly read anything. I've been getting over my depressive slump. Uh, it's not been perfect, but I'm doing much better, feeling much better than I was. Sorry, the lighting in here is not very good. I don't know what I'm supposed to. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that necessarily. There it is. It's right in front. It's right above my head. But regardless, we'll start off by talking about what books I've read, and we'll start with the books I do not have, which is physical copies of, and that's most of them. I read 9 books this month, which is the most I've read for any month so far. So it was good. I was doing a lot of driving, listening to audiobooks, or cleaning, preparation for moving and stuff like that, and just listening. Uh, but I read Twilight of the Gods. I read that at the beginning of May by Scott Odin. I really actually I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Gathering of Ravens more. So Twilight of the Gods is book 2 for the Grimnir saga. I really liked Gathering of Ravens. I think Grimnir, the main character, is better in the Twilight of the Gods, but I don't think his foil Disa is as good in my opinion as Adon. And it's just kind of even. I already thought it was too fast paced. I think that's just a type of fiction it is or whatever. Is too fast paced for my preference. It's not bad though. It's just that's just the style, and it's even more so the case. There's more to go, no time to breathe and to flesh out those characters more, which is what I prefer. So that's why it's not my favorite type of stuff, but it's not bad. And I mean, I'm keen on reading the Doom of Odin book 3, but it's only out in physical copy right now, and I can't really justify buying the copy right now. I don't have that much money. So I'm hoping to take advantage of the library. I just visited today in the town I'm in. So hopefully take advantage of that and be good. It's like the light's like right on my nose, so it just looks huge. Not I already have a pretty big nose, but I mean this is not helping. But regardless, I also read Testimonies of Transition, which is a scholarly work by one of my professors from the University of Aberdeen, and I'm in the program for Scottish Heritage. One of the professors is Marjorie Harper. She's diaspora expertise on the Scots. I'm more interested in the Scots, like 18th, 19th century, which is most 18th century and before is actually when most of my ancestors came to the United States. But this book was pretty strictly on 20th century immigration, so not exactly what I was interested in. But I have a physical copy, and I had packed it already, and I meant to grab it out, but I didn't. I just ended up listening to it. But whatever, it wasn't bad, and it was she actually she was the one narrating it as well, which is nice. I mean, I recognized her voice right when it started before it said, narrated by Marjorie Harper. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is Professor Harper. But regardless, she's friendly. The book was still interesting. I'm interested in I'm interested in heritage. I mean, if you're acquainted with my channel, then hopefully you know that to a degree. Um, okay, and then Witchy Winter by DJ Butler, I also read. I had started it a month or so ago, and I didn't enjoy it as much as Witchy Eye. I think I don't know what this is, but book twos I feel like tend to be the more disappointing, more likely to be disappointing. I suppose that is. Uh, Witchy Winter was not bad. I just the world is expansive and epic, and I don't dislike that. it's just I feel like it's best when you don't have to tell me every single detail. And I feel like there's too many perspectives. That's pretty much my big complaint. I'd rather it be more limited in scope, and lots of these details for the world are alluded to, because you could still get an idea of the size of the world without having to hammer it home to me, because you're telling me 15 different characters' perspectives, which I think he like literally does something around 15 in this book. Uh, and so I'm getting all the details because all of them are pretty unique characters and stuff like that. And it's just I feel like it's too much. It is too much. I don't think it really works. The book isn't bad, but honestly, it kind of turned me off from reading Witchy Kingdom right now, which is the book three of. There's four currently out. I think six is the plan, and uh, the soft trilogy for Witchy Kingdom will be the last one. So I definitely am going to read it, but I think it went a little bit beyond the mark in Witchy Winter as opposed to Witchy Eye, which I thought was done pretty well. That was actually one of my complaints a bit in Witchy Eye, and I think and so if you could see that that's something I disliked about Witchy Eye, Witchy Winter is way more guilty of it. So I didn't like that either. Okay, one I did listen to also was Wraithbound by Tim Akers. Never read anything by him before, but I actually really enjoyed this. Similar complaints as I need a good balance between Witchy, like DJ Butler's Witchy War series, and like the Doom of Odin. And I feel like this was actually somewhere in the middle, but more towards Doom of Odin, where I don't feel like I care so much about the characters as I would like to. It's only one book in. This came out about a year ago, I think, just over a year ago now. Uh, Wraithbound did. And I enjoyed it. I actually did really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to reading the sequel when it comes out. I don't know when that will be, though. But also just didn't care about the characters so much. It also has like heavy on the magic system. It's quite similar to, I guess the closest thing I can think of is Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Not bad, not gonna make an all-time list for me, but still worth a read. Actually, I enjoyed it. I read it pretty quickly because I enjoyed it. Back to more historical or academic stuff. I read Ethelfled, the Lady of the Mercians. This one was pretty quick, informative, kind of just loose Anglo-Saxon history from like King Alfred to Elfwin, Ethelfled's daughter, who was also a Lady of Mercia, but only for a few months as opposed to several years like Ethelfled was. If you've watched the TV show or read the book series The Last Kingdom, I've watched the TV show, not the book series, you've probably acquainted with Ethelfled. Obviously, she's kind of sensationalized, and there's some lies, as it always happens with TV shows and books about historical characters. But what I thought was mostly interesting, what interested me, and they actually explained it in the book pretty briefly, is that like why would someone like we don't really get queens that are super important in Wessex, which is right next to Mercia. Wessex perhaps being more famous because of King Alfred, but Mercia is like is willing to have a queen, like a lady. I guess they don't really. I don't know if they didn't really call her queen, but a lady that ruled over them, which is that seems like a pretty drastic difference in their neighboring countries, and they're both Anglo-Saxons. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. They answered that a bit, so I guess if you're interested, go ahead and read it. It's pretty quick. Also read the Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. Never read this before. This is something I definitely need a physical copy for. I would like to go through it again. It's really quick, but I would like to go through that again. But Screwtape Letters, highly recommend. I am a Christian. I enjoy these Christian like apologist, more theologically minded stuff. Definitely a lot to learn from it. Of course, from the perspective of a demon. I've written a short story kind of like this before. It's really short. It's like 800 words or whatever. I didn't know Screwtape Letters was like that, but I'm copying C.S. Lewis, I guess. Or he's copying me. Just kidding. He's obviously did wait for me. Ireland's Forgotten Past is the last one I don't have a copy of. This was like a collection of different historical stories about people who lived in Ireland, of course, throughout its like from the earliest days down to I think World War One, like post World War Two was the most recent, was the last one on there, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty informative, different way of going about history in some regards because you're just looking at anecdotal stuff from specific accounts, really. Uh, the author, Turtle, I already forgot his name. I look at these very professional videos I'm doing. like the little bit he added at the end kind of annoyed me because he was like, "Oh, Ireland has done so many great things, and here are things that Ireland are doing great now." And it was mostly, if you also watch this channel, I'm not a Marxist and I hate postmodernism. It was mostly stuff along the lines of, "This is why Ireland's great now." He pretty much lauded the idea that I'm okay. I'm not Catholic either, but I respect people. I find it to be uh, a nice relief when people actually have faith and are true to that faith, actually go to church, when so many people just don't do anything pertaining to faith anymore. It's like so common. It's nice when people actually believe in something. Uh, and he was like, back just in the 1970s, which is when my mother was born, so it doesn't seem that super long ago to me. Just like 50 years ago or so. Uh, 1/3 of Ireland showed up to when the Pope came to Dublin for mass or whatever. Like literally 1/3 of Ireland showed up or something like that. I don't remember. And exactly. And he was and he's saying, and now today they rescinded one of the strictest abortion laws in the country. And I was like, well, regardless of what your opinion on abortion is. I think the idea, he's pretty much lauding the idea that the country is no longer a country of faith, and I find that disgusting, to be honest. It's like Ireland is like too empathetic in many ways. Perhaps I feel like they are kind of shooting themselves in the foot, like lots of Western countries are. Uh, I feel like that can be perhaps is a controversial take to some people, and I think he was talking about in a sense of that's good. That's what you should be proud of being Irish because we're doing this. But my thought was, uh, and I can understand I think that you should try to find things that you like about your country. I think most governments are terrible, so perhaps what the government doing is not a good example, but what the people are doing. But this kind of was a pair of both, as in the government did this, but obviously reflected uh, the people's beliefs, and that is they're moving away from faith. And he obviously thinks of Catholicism as this archaic Ireland living in the past, and so we're moving away from that as a good thing. But I don't think that's a good thing, personally. So that's why I was a little disgusted by it when I was like, okay, this book's been good until the author decided to open his mouth and not just tell me historical stuff. I don't really care what he had to say, but the book was still interesting, still worth listening to. I kind of ended up talking about that more than I had planned for one book. Okay, but then the next one I have a physical copy of. I'm going to talk very briefly about this. Fellwater by Brendan Myers. I just was in a used bookstore in Montana. I had like 5 seconds. I just ran in and pretty much grabbed this book. There were 3 of them there. So I was like, okay, if I enjoy this, I can grab. It should be a really quick read. And I was like, and I can come back and I can get the other 2 if I end up liking it. I freaking hated it. It's only like 180 pages. So I finished reading it because it was really short. I was like, I may as well. But otherwise, I would not have. Not good. Do not recommend whatsoever. um, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Okay. And then I also have, this was a quick read too. This is more, again, academic stuff. Private History in Public. I bought this used on Amazon. It said it was in good condition. It has a big old coffee stain on it. It's just like, yeah, thanks for lying to me, you jerks. But regardless, this is by Tammy S. Gordon. She teaches in the Public History Department at NC State in Raleigh, North Carolina. But Private History in Public, Exhibition and the Settings of Everyday Life. She's looking at more local museums, but also things like museum displays in gas stations or on diner walls and whatnot. She looked at bars like Murphy's Bar, which is in Wrigleyville in Chicago, which I appreciated. I'm a Cubs fan. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. In fact, I'm thinking about reading her most recent book, because this came out in 2010. Thinking about reading her most recent book that came out in like 2020 about the Kodak, like displaying, like capturing everyday life. I know that has a tilt towards like queer and minority expression through that, which I do not care about. I find that Marxist stuff to be nonsense. My hope is that maybe she is doing that, covering that, because that's how you get funding in the humanities, is you have to cover stuff like that. If you're not covering minority stuff, then they don't care in many ways, which is kind of sad, because I noticed there's a tilt for that in her two most previous books. It might not be the case though. It might just be because that's what she's interested in. But it seems like every faculty in most universities, especially very secular ones, which is most of them, uh, have to mention stuff like that. And it's just like, can't you just like what you like? Why do we all have? Why does everyone have to have some expertise in African American studies or Middle Eastern studies or queer studies or something like that? It's like, just who cares? Just study what you want to study. Don't study. Again, I may be wrong. Because I'm sure some of them do genuinely want to study that, but I know that not everyone are all the same in academia, are they? Like they want to. Some of them, I'm sure, might feel pressured to study that for funding's sake and keeping jobs or getting tenure, and maybe they won't care once they get tenure or something like that. Uh, okay, and then those are all. That should have been 9, right? Yeah, that's all 9 that I've read. Still reading. I actually finished this on June 1st, so I'll talk more about it in my next month's video, but that is The History of England from the Tudors to the Stuarts. I'm going to count this as a book. I was listening to it on Audible, but I guess it's technically a lecture series through the great courses. But I really enjoyed it, actually. That was a part of England's history that I was not very acquainted with. I was kind of acquainted with the Stuarts, but hardly at all with the Tudors, besides knowing who Henry VIII is and, knowing some of the names like Elizabeth. But I enjoyed it. I might make a video on that specifically, like a review for it. I guess let me know if you guys would be interested in me reviewing great courses. There's a lot of them. I'm listening to one other currently called The Celtic World. Not very far into it. There are some complaints I have, but it's mostly been good. I guess only really maybe one complaint that I've had so far. I'm not very far into it, like I said. I can talk more about that next month when I finish that. But that is also good. I've been enjoying it. I'm already pretty acquainted with it. It's a pretty short one, this one, The Celtic World is. But there have been some more, some things that I didn't know about. Like, I knew who Vercingetorix was, but she talked a bit more about him, gave me some more information, and, like, the Roman context. And so I appreciate that. So I am still learning things, even if I am generally acquainted already. So not bad. And then I'm reading Children of Ash and Elm, A History of the Vikings. I mentioned this in my History Trail tag one because I had just started it when I did that video, which I recorded in May. And I haven't really read much of it since doing that video. But I have, I don't know, over 150 pages in, I guess. But I have a little bit more to go. It's over 500 pages. But we'll see. It's not bad. It's kind of a general history book, and I find my distaste for them to be similar, consistently, and that is too sensationalized, not specific enough. And I know that's kind of what it is. It's kind of hard. I feel like I've never written one, but I would imagine it's kind of hard to find the balance between being too academic and too general for the public. Because if it's too academic, the public aren't going to care. You might not sell any copies. Nobody knows who your name is besides academics, and then who cares? But if it's too general, it's like they're selling it. They're trying to sell it. They're trying to sensationalize it. Some of the stuff they talk about, like the social stuff, is kind of interesting, but it's not stuff I really care about. But it's not bad. It's not bad. That's my complaint for most general history books, and I know going in, like when I buy the book, that that's going to happen. So, oh well. Perhaps I shouldn't complain about it. But this one also, I'm not sure if when I finish this, I'm going to count it as a book read. I mean, I counted that Great Courses thing as a book read when I just finished all the lectures. But this is a Sibley Guide to Trees. My middle name is Owen. And Eoghan, or Egan, as my parents often called me with it. Not that they called me by my middle name very often. I have 2 middle names. Legally one because they're connected by a hyphen. But it means born of the yew tree in Gaelic. And so I kind of had this loose interest in trees for a while. In fact, I gave my son a similar name, a middle name referencing a tree in a not English language. But yeah, I've been reading this a bit. I have a bit to go, and it's mostly just illustrations, and I mean there's stuff to read on it, but it's not a lot of text. But it's been enjoyable. I've been enjoying myself reading it. So there's that. Let me know if I'm allowed to count that as a book, I guess. Okay. And then the thing I only started reading, so I didn't read this at all in May because I got here on June 1st and I had them ship it to me here. But this is Somerset Archaeology and Natural History. This is their volume 166 that from 20. It's like pretty much all their proceedings from 2022. That's what they call it. In September of this year, I'll get last year's proceedings, and I joined this society, and I've been reading it. It's so far I've been reading all this archaeology stuff, and I've been quite enjoying it. Like I read one, I think I'm about 4 or 5 papers in now. I'm almost halfway done with it, but it's just a collection of essays. I'm probably gonna count it as a book just because it is a book when I read it, when I finish it this month. But like one of them was doing excavations in a town called Midsummer Norton, which is where my surname, my strict patrilineal line, goes to Midsummer Norton in Somerset. It's actually kind of why I joined this society, and I guess I want to talk about that as I joined a couple societies in May. I joined the Somerset Archaeology and Natural History Society, which is SAHNS, SAHNS. They sent me this book among several other smaller books. They're actually on the shelf above this one. I can't, so you can't see it right now. I read one already. It's like 16-page booklet. There's a couple other. There's another booklet, and then a couple other smaller books. One's more natural history, like I think, and it's called like A Naturalist Eye. And there's a book. There's a couple books, but one book in particular on their website that I really want. Um, but I don't know if they ship to the US. I'm sure I could email them, they would. It'd just probably be pretty expensive postage. But it was really nice of them when I got my membership. I didn't get the membership card. It was supposed to be in my package, but I can't really use it anyway unless I'm going to their museum in Taunton, Somerset, and I have no idea if that's ever going to happen. I would hope that happens at some point, but not anytime soon. I have no money. But they sent me some of those books, and I really appreciate that. I think it was super cool. Um, I tend to be interested in studying places that I have ancestral ties to, and Somerset is the area of England I'm more particular to, just because my name comes from it, my namesake really, and patrilineal line that is. I have ties to other parts of England, of course, a lot of ties to England. When you go back to ancestry, through ancestry and stuff, but that's been interesting, and stuff on like Cheddar, which is a Cheddar, the town is in Somerset, uh, in that natural history one I mentioned. So looking forward to that. I already watched one of their webinars. They stream them through Zoom, and then they post them on YouTube. You just a couple days later, you can go subscribe to their channel. They have some interesting lectures on there, and the I joined the Illinois State Historical Society as well. I only got like an email about that. I haven't gotten anything. They have 2 lectures on their YouTube channel. Their YouTube channel is also only a couple months old. And their second one, The Irish in Illinois, was interviewing a guy who was one of the authors for such a book, book with the same title. And I have that book on my list now. I don't know when I'll get to it. But I guess I have ancestral ties to Illinois. I actually grew up in Illinois, but I don't really have plans to move back to Illinois. But I want it to have some sort of ties. I feel like, okay, historical society, that should do the trick, hopefully, right? So yeah. So I joined that, and then I also joined Family of Bruce International, FOBI. I don't know if that's how they say it, but I know they do FOBI, and I got a certificate for it, like saying that you are recognized, you're a member, and you're recognized. The head, like this is the only society recognized by Lord Elgin. Actually, I've always pronounced it Elgin, but I heard someone else pronounce it Elgin, so I'm actually not sure if it's which way it's supposed to be pronounced. But the chief of Clan Bruce, is the Earl of Elgin in Scotland, and like the 11th Earl of Elgin and 15th Earl of Kincardine. And his manor is in Dunfermline, Broomhall House in Dunfermline, County 5, Scotland. He's like 100 years old now, Lord Elgin, and then his son, the next in line, is he's the one called Lord Bruce. Thought that was a bit interesting. I emailed and asked for permission if I could join as a regular member, because you can be an associate member, but I asked if I could be a regular member because I don't they made it sound generally like regular members are for people that have the last name Bruce, their mom was a Bruce, or maybe grandma was a Bruce, and my great grandma was a Bruce, so it's been a couple extra generations since we've actually had the Bruce surname that along my line, but and that line goes back to Scotland, of course. Edinburgh actually is where it ends. It doesn't get very far once we get to Scotland, really. But but regardless, I joined that as well, and that's been pretty cool. I actually asked, I emailed, and I haven't gotten back. I emailed like I don't know, a week ago, maybe. I don't even know if it was a week ago. If I could host, if I could or host a tent, for Clan Blues. They're gonna kick me out. If I could host a tent at the in Prescott, Arizona, and Tucson, Arizona for their Celtic festivals and Highland Games that are coming up in a couple months. I think, yeah, within the next couple months for a few months for both of those, because I didn't see anywhere on their website. They usually list the websites they're gonna have a tent at on their website, and I didn't see anything for them. So I asked if I could, because those are ones I might actually go to, and then I could just host a tent myself. I need to get a Bruce tartan though, because I don't have one. Bruce kilt, that is. I have a kilt, but it's like the generic Scottish heritage kilt, because I didn't know which clan I should try to represent, because I have several. Mackenzie, Campbell, McCulloch appears in there briefly, Henderson, Graham. Those are all the Bruce clans I can think of. There's some other Bruce lines, but none of them are like clans per se. And yeah. So, but Bruce is the most recent one, and perhaps probably the most extensive line I can think of. Yeah, I think it is. Um, that we have. That helps, I guess, with it being the most recent one. So, um, I joined that one. I joined that clan. I feel like it was the most appropriate one to join. Um, but of course, I still identify with the other ones in many ways. And it's nice to have someone who's famous, Edward the Bruce, probably related to some degree, even if I just went through some bastard child all those years ago, which would not surprise me. Um, but either way, those are the societies I joined. It's getting a bit long, but for writing, I hardly did any writing. I continued a little bit of a short story that I had already started writing. I pretty much already know what I'm going to be writing for that story. I just haven't done it. I need to get to that. So, oops. Something I haven't mentioned before, but I'm going to mention is I played a couple video games today, so actually in June, so I'll mention it anyway. I finished Gears of War 4, which is the first time I've played that. I played it with my wife. I introduced my wife to Gears of War when I was playing Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which is like the remake of Gears of War 1, the first one, the original one. And she ended up playing it, really liked it. So she played all five, all the main five, Gears 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, by her on her own. And so she played 4 and 5, and I never had. I only played 1, 2, and 3. Um, in fact, I think I had only played 1 and 2, and we played 3 together a while ago, and then she finally convinced me to play Gears 4 with her. We also played D&D Dark Alliance, which I feel like a common complaint about that game is it feels incomplete and it feels buggy, and I agree and to a degree, but it's still really fun. I actually really enjoy it. It's the second time I've played through it, so it's good enough for me. I used to play the Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance Baldur's Gate on like PS2 when I was a kid. Um, and we had my brother had Dark Alliance 2, but I don't know if I ever really played it. And I know Baldur's Gate 3 just came out, and I haven't played it. I'm not particularly interested because in many ways it's turn-based, and I'm not a big fan of that. I know that's how D&D actually is, but um, I don't know. Maybe I'll get to it. I've heard it's great, obviously. So we'll see. And then I guess just round it out here with some academic stuff is I got a book review published. This is I've only have two publications, and they're academic articles that I got published in an undergraduate journal through John Hopkins University. And so I don't think my papers are particularly good, especially, and I'm not really proud at this point that they're through undergraduate journals, but they're something. They are academic, and it's all I have, so they're still listed on my CV. Um, and this book review is really easy. It's through Western States Folklore Society, who have been really hard to communicate with. It's not been fun. I didn't know it was getting published. They didn't tell me. They just sent me. I just got the copy of It's quarterly. I got the copy, um, and mine was there. It was the very last thing. It was the very back. So that was a pleasant surprise, I guess. But it's because it's something else. It's only like 600 words. It's really short. About I think I mentioned it in my very first Shenanigans, the Emily Hillard's visual, like West Virginia folklore stuff. It was okay. I didn't really like it because it was a Marxist critique and not advertised as such. But regardless, I also I hosted a symposium, called it a symposium, I don't know, with my brother uh, on Discord with just a couple other guys, and that was fun. Kind of just talked about myth in general. We're gonna do the same thing this month. Try to do it more structured. Liam is gonna do one of the presentations, and so am I. We're gonna do like two presentations at about half hour each, and then presentation, discussion period about a half hour, another presentation for a half hour, then discussion period. So about 2 hours. We'll see how it goes with the more structure. Um, there's a good chance I might record that lecture, that presentation for the channel and just post it on the channel as well. I have a general idea of what I want to talk about. I don't know if I want the thing I'm thinking about to be the main, just complete focus, because I think it might be kind of boring if I do that, or if I wanted to just draw examples from it and talk about a more appealing, interesting, maybe philosophical topic or something. So, not exactly sure. And then I'm kind of hoping, I guess if you are invited to those symposiums or whatnot, uh, I'm kind of hoping maybe to use those people, assuming they're trustworthy. I don't know if I'm inviting them. I'm hoping they are. At least I like them. My brother's the one inviting lots of people too, but I'm giving him permission, I guess, to invite people. Is because it was kind of my, I guess it was my idea. Not I guess it was my idea from the beginning, but obviously I'm kind of doing it in tandem with my brother, and hopefully more involved with these other people. Um, I want to start a publishing company. It's been something I've been thinking about for a while. Is like how does if stuff like this can get published, and I know it's still people still struggle to get published stuff that I know is good, way better than that. Um, I want to help publish some of it. It'd definitely be an online thing for a while. But I also want to, I was thinking like a monthly fictional thing, even if we get some serialized stuff or short fiction, maybe some ebooks because there's no way we could do print for the time being. Um, I say that as if we'll have no money. I just assume we'll have no money. But the there's that, and then maybe a quarterly or seasonal academic journal as well. Would be interested, just generally for the humanities, because I'm generally interested in the humanities. So that's kind of an idea I have as well, and we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of still fleshing it out. I've been fleshing it out for a while. I'm kind of intent on doing it. I have. Does that make sense? Can I speak English? I plan on doing it. I just don't know if I want to do LLC or if I want to try to go to nonprofit status, which I feel like the idea is would probably qualify for 501c3 status. I've already ran a 501c3 before, so I kind of know what I'm doing, but it is more work because it has to be a corporation, so I have to get a board of directors and yada yada yada. So write bylaws and what everything. So we'll see exactly what happens. I don't if I do end up doing that. I don't know if I'll make any videos about that or whatnot. I don't know if anyone's interested would care. Um, but regardless, the IRS is not my friend. It's just for tax exempt status, but at the same time, being tax exempt would be nice because I don't want to give the IRS any money. But especially when I'm not planning on us really making money. But regardless, I mean, it would be nice if it got to that point. Like hell, if it came to the point where it could be my full time job, that would be awesome. I'm just not banking on that. You know what I mean? But either way, I will see you guys next time. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Let me know if you've read any of the books, played those video games. I didn't mention any movies. Maybe I'll mention that next time. I didn't feel like there was anything in particular worth mentioning, like no classics that I've seen or whatever for the first time. Um, yeah, and hopefully I'll at least finish like the 3 or 4 books I'm already reading in June, and I have plans, of course, to read more. So you guys can find out about that next time, or if I make individual videos about them, which I'll try to do for some at least. But I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching, especially if you watched to this point. Really appreciate it. And I will see you guys next month for more Shenanigans. Adios.